Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast. Okay, Marcus Di Rollo, welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast for a second time. Thank you for coming.
No, glad to be here. Thanks for getting me. Thanks for getting me back in.
Thanks for joining us. So this time you're not on to discuss the market update as the lettings director at Gilson Gray. You get to talk about your own journey.
Yeah, exactly. Lettings director. It seems like yesterday you kind of give up rugby, and then take the next step, and it's also quite a difficult kind of process, and you don't really know what's happened. And with myself, it kind of ended all quite quickly. So
you played rugby at professional level then, right? So take us back to just growing up then, like.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up. I was heavily involved in rugby. My dad and his friend Pete, who they I don't think missed a Scotland international for 30 years. So it was kind of destined for me to get on board with rugby. So I played mini rugby at clubs in Edinburgh Wanderers, and I played football, played a lot of sports. I was just kind of that was my thing, sport to begin with. So yeah, went to school, played football and rugby, and then it got to a stage where you kind of have to decide which one you're going to do. So I decided that I was going to push rugby a little bit harder and then have to give up, because effectively one was on a Saturday morning, one was on a Sunday morning, and they both got the same day. So
did you ever think it'd be a career?
No, not really, because when I was growing up, it wasn't really professional. It didn't turn professional until, officially 95, but it was much later than that.
That's you showing your age now.
No, I know, but it was later than that it actually went professional. I think the first few years they were kind of just pitching up and shirt and tie, but not really knowing what they were doing. Ended up choosing rugby, and then I was in this sort of Edinburgh Academy, they called it. So I played at school, first 15, and got Scottish schools, and then.
Is that quite a commitment at that age? I mean, how often are you training and stuff like that? And like,
yeah, it was. You were maybe playing during the week for the district, and then for the school on a Saturday, so you had to train pretty much like five days.
So what were you like when you were 16? I mean, I can remember like 16, that was when you're starting to kind of meet up your pals up the park, drinking and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So how did you manage to...
I was training for a world championships in martial arts, but I remember being the distractions at the time.
Did you?
You're going, we're all going out drinking on a Friday night and I've got to go to jiu-jitsu or go to a wrestling class.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Fucking hell,
well, that's where it all went wrong for me then, wasn't it? Like, you ended up a world champion.
No, I didn't. Far from it. That's handed to me.
No, but obviously you're hitting those things at that age. Do you know what I mean? Can you remember kind of having to sort of fend off those temptations?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I remember same thing, folk were having house parties or, whatever. They were going out and they were drinking and stuff, and I kind of always had a focus that I had to be fresh and fit for the games on Saturday, because I always had the aim. I just wanted to play as much as I could and as high a level as I could. So yeah, that sort of period was pretty tough. Not tough. I mean, it was what I wanted to do. So I didn't mind missing out on going out.
The distractions.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, from there then I eventually signed with Edinburgh Rugby, they are now, and started to play with them. And that's kind of when, going back to property, I was living at home, I was getting paid as well, and I was also doing part-time university. But right at the start. So this would be, I don't know, this would be maybe 97, 98 time. So at the start, it was kind of, they allowed you a lot more time away from it. So you'd go in maybe once a day, train, and then go home, and then the next day it would be something else. So you had a bit of free time on your hand. So I bought a flat while staying at my mum and dad's, and saved up money for the deposit, bought the flat, and then it was in Stockbridge in Edinburgh, so it needed a lot of work done to it, and I remember thinking back, it had like, the mock sort of stone fireplaces and all that. It was in great.
You enjoy getting in there with the sledgehammer on those ones, don't you?
Aye, well, that's exactly what it was. The pickaxe trying to smash it out the wall, and it needed bathroom, and it needed a kitchen, needed the floor sanded. So
what year was that then? You bought your first one?
So that would be around about 1999, I think, 2000.
Okay.
So what gave you that inclination? Just because you had a bit of time on your hand, or was there always a desire to invest in property? Or
yeah, I think I'd kind of always been aware of it. My dad's got a business, ceramic tiles, porcelain. So a lot of people that he supplied to were property developers. Guys like AMA and Applecross at the time who were really prominent builders. And I always just thought, look, property, these guys, I knew them as well growing up, and they always did well. And I think it just, with supplying them what they were buying, and then the end product, always found quite exciting. So I thought, look, I've got a lot of time in my hand, I'll start myself, and bought the flat, ripped out the whole place, and then used my dad's tiles and all that, and kitchens he had.
Did you do a lot of work yourself then, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the worst thing ever, and I've never done it since, was sanding the floors.
Oh, right.
So that is the dustiest.
By a hand sander, or actually what?
No, it was one of those ones that you push along and it churns up the.
Still hard going, isn't it?
Oh, but it's not as hard work as. It's not physically hard, but it's just the dust. It was unbelievable.
Mundane, boring work.
Boring, yeah, exactly. And there was a bit of it that was paid around the side. So I remember doing all that stuff. But that kind of got me onto the ladder. And
did you keep that flat?
No, I didn't. I actually sold that one, but literally sold it. And then to do it again.
Right. Can you remember how much you made on that one?
I think I bought that for 89,000 and sold it for 140. So
it's good going.
Did all right. And it took longer than it should have, because I was doing it all. But yeah, that was the kind of taste for it. And I just thought, look, a bit of hard work and a bit of vision and what have you, and using the contacts you have, and that was the end product. So that kind of got me going. And then as I was playing, I built up a portfolio. So I invested a little bit of money with my dad, and we bought. I think we had 6 properties in a shop at one stage,
in and around Edinburgh.
All in and around, in and around Edinburgh. So
specific areas, or just with strategy in mind, or just
we tried to keep it city centre. Back that time, there was areas still really, really good areas like Dalry and Gorgie that you could buy. Back then it was almost like we were talking about Dundee earlier, and you can buy properties in Dundee now, 1 bedrooms for 40, 50, 60 grand or something like that. And that was about the same in Dalry. So there was good opportunities there. Plus a couple of the streets were a bit kind of run down. They had like boarded up flats, and so there was opportunities. You get in, we speak to a neighbour or whatever, and end up an opportunity to buy another one and things like that. So it's like anything, once you're in it and once you're doing it, opportunities present.
It's like a little bit of a bug for it as well.
When were you at the peak then of your rugby playing days, your rugby career?
So going back to that, I suppose I was picked to go on a rugby tour with Scotland because I'd played sevens, so that was kind of my route into it, I suppose. I was playing age group rugby and I was playing sevens, and I played at the Dubai Sevens and the Hong Kong Sevens, and there was a Paris Sevens as well back then. So I played that, and then I started to sort of get into the Edinburgh team, and I got an opportunity with the national team to go and tour America and Canada and America. And so that was a great tour.
It's like a tour of friendlies, like.
No, there was international at the end of the first part against Canada,
right?
And then we went to America and then played America as well. So I kind of played a few midweek games in the Canada part of it, and then there was a test against, I think, Canada, where we ended up losing, but I wasn't in the squad for that. And then in the second week, I played another midweek game and then got on the bench for the test against America, which we ended up winning quite well, and I got off the bench, scored a try, and that was sort of my first cap. So yeah, then came back from that tour, had a bit of time off, and then played in the Commonwealth Games straight after that. So came back off tour, went to the Commonwealth Games down in Manchester. I played in that, so I didn't really get. That was really good experience as well, because Commonwealth Games.
That was a buzz.
Yeah, it's a buzz, and you're
staying in like the Athletes Village and all that. And
staying in the Athletes Village, which was great. Just meeting all the other teams, all the other athletes.
Were you single at that point?
No, I wasn't actually.
I hear there's some shenanigans goes on in these Athletes Village.
Yeah, I think it's a recipe for that, though. It's just like student halls with a central meeting point and what have you. So no, that was a lot of fun.
Right.
So played in that, and then had a bit of an off season. And then I kind of started the season with Edinburgh and was getting picked regularly, which was really good.
For the Edinburgh first team?
For Edinburgh first team, yeah. And I was about, 4 or 5 games in that year, and we went across to Ulster, and I ended up trying to catch a high. The ball was in the air and it was coming down, and as it was falling out there, I could see a guy who's going to hit me as I landed. So I tried to kind of, as I was catching it, twist, and I landed, and I ended up sort of twisting my knee. So I did my cruciate ligament, and then so I was out for about a year with that. So, but again, that kind of got me back with doing property. I had more time in my hands.
But did you feel like, I mean, that was you breaking into the Scotland squad and all that as well, and then you hit that injury period. Does that really kind of knock you off course then, or how did you recover from that?
Oh yeah, it was pretty tough. When you do that injury as well, it's a long road. It's not like if you break your arm or break your leg, it's better than the ligament, better than rupturing the ligament.
Surgery and all that? Did you have to go through?
Yeah, went through to Ross Hall in Glasgow and got it.
I stay like literally 2 minutes up the road from Ross Hall.
I passed it the other day actually, and I was like, oh, that's
that rings a bell.
Didn't bring back too many happy memories, but so I got it done there, and then it's a long road, so you're kind of in the gym on your own a lot of the time, just strengthening your leg and trying to keep the rest of your body in shape, And
did you manage to get back into the international squad
so
after that?
It took me a few years, to be honest, because I was out most of 2002, 2003, and then I came back and started to play. I played really well once after being back for maybe 6 months, and we went on a really good run in Europe, where we got to the quarterfinal. We played Toulouse, who were the sort of, I think they were champions, and we beat them in the first game, and we went unbeaten apart from we lost them in the very last game, but we qualified for the quarterfinals, which was really good. No one had ever done that at the time. So I was playing well, but we had they had a change of coach from Ian McGeechan to Matt Williams, and Matt Williams, just although I was in all these squads, he just never picked me.
Right.
So
see if you listen to this podcast here, Matt Williams.
Exactly. No, it was frustrating. It was really.
It must have
frustrating.
been though. That must be hard when you're that passionate about, obviously, you know, the sport and playing there, and you've done all that work coming back from that injury.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've basically been dropped, haven't you?
Yeah, more or less. It was. I mean, other guys come on the scene. Things move on. Other guys get opportunities and things. So you're kind of. You're
Is he an Aussie?
He was an Aussie, yeah. Yeah, he was an Aussie. He was a very, very strange Aussie. No, very opinionated, and basically when he came in, he told us that we probably wouldn't win for 2 years and all this sort of stuff.
Right,
because we weren't anywhere near where we should be and all this sort of stuff.
Positive approach, something like what I would say.
It was mind blowing, some of the stuff. Looking
You will
back.
not be a property investor. You will fail. Right. Okay.
So he then luckily got sacked, and the guy who took over was the coach at Edinburgh. He made quite a few sort of changes, and we were doing well, and he coached us. He'd coached me. Or a lot of the group that I was age grade wise since I was 19, so I suppose he had a lot of trust in us, and we got kind of, a lot of us got promoted at the same time into the team, and yeah, that was.
You ever played a World Cup or anything like that?
Yeah, so I played first game back 2005, and then I played the 2000. That was in the summer, and then the 2006 Nations I played, and then 2007's.
Brilliant. That must be some buzz, that, walking out in front of what, 50,000?
Yeah, 67 and a half it was. But
as a you know, getting, you know, you're walking out there, and you know, you've been taken along to rugby as a boy and all that. That just must be like the dreams, you know, like come true. Is that, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a strange. It's just because having gone back there as a fan, you don't really see a lot of the, like, you know, fans going to the game, what it's like outside. You kind of get bussed in. You get off the bus, you're in the changing room. So when you go out initially, it's just,
what are the nerves like? What's the feeling that goes through your body? Is it adrenaline? Is it nerves? Is it like what?
Yeah, everything.
Just like,
yeah, everything that you've said there.
Buzzing.
Yeah, you are, and you're so pumped up for it, because you know you run out, you do your warm up, you're back in, you're out. One of the best experiences I had. We played England in 2006. We hadn't won the Kolkata Cup for 6 years, so this was the home game, and they were doing a sort of I don't know if it was like a William Wallace reenactment, but there were all these guys dressed in kilts and face paints on the pitch, and they were doing some sort of exhibition thing.
At the start, pre-kickoff.
But when we ran out, I remember it, they were kind of doing this march across the pitch, and when we ran out, they sort of parted and we just ran through, and then when the English boys ran out, they just didn't part and just walked normally, and they were sort of just dodging them, you know, walking into them and all this.
Try to trip them up and all that.
So did your dad and his pal Pete come to these home games?
Oh yeah.
My dad. I think they both did. Yeah,
that'd been quite a nice moment for you as well, knowing that they kind of started you in rugby and they were the driving force when you were a kid.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you go out there, you're kind of just always, you know, looking to not let them down as well. So no, it's good to share those experiences and stuff and have them watching. So no, it was great. It was great, and we ended up going on and winning that game as well. So, and I played in that team with a lot of guys who had come through like age grade with, you know, Chris Patterson, Gordon Ross, Simon Taylor, I think Alan Jacobson, you know, Craig Smith. There was a lot of us that had all come through that sort of journey.
Was that from Edinburgh?
They were from.
They all played in Edinburgh.
Well, Chris was from the Borders, and so was Craig Smith, and you know, so we all kind of just played in age grades all the way through. So schools, under 19, under 21s, and
you still keep in touch with like the rugby crowd, or is it sort of you sort of moved on? Or
no, I do. Yeah, I see Chris, Craig Smith. He's come over and stayed at my house recently because he lives in France.
Right,
so
okay.
him and his wife Jill come over. So yeah, Scott Murray's he's in America, so I speak to him quite a bit. But yeah, we keep in touch. Keep in touch quite a lot.
Where did it all end for you then in the rugby?
Yeah, so after in 2007, I then went to the World Cup in France. So at the World Cup, that was out in France. We were staying in Saint Etienne thing, so we played at that, and then I'd signed a contract at the World Cup to go to France to play at Toulouse.
Right.
So when the World Cup finished, we lost in the quarter final. Then literally came back for, I think it was a week, and then flew out to France to play in France for Toulouse. So I did pre-season with them, and then just as the season was about to kick off, what happened when I played in Scotland for the World Cup, they started doing heart screening. So I got a heart screen pre that World Cup, and kind of detected that I had a heart murmur.
All right.
But yeah, there was no effects, there was no symptoms at that stage of anything. So they said, look, he says, as far as we're concerned, as long as we monitor it and scan you every 6 months, just crack on because it's not affecting you.
Did that play in your head at all?
Not really at the start. Nah, it was just I'd had it since birth, they'd said, so it was something that I always had. I wasn't really aware of it either. So then once the World Cup was finished, I went to Toulouse. I was pre-season training. I was really fit actually, and then played a pre-season game, and then we played the league game. I was on the bench, came on in that, and then the doctors came and said, look, we know that you got this on your medical file. We want to get it checked out. So then I went along to the hospital in Toulouse, or just outside Pourpan, got a scan and all this sort of thing, and I thought nothing of it. I'd been through, a couple of them, and they said, look, we're not too sure about this, and we just want to get further tests. So I said, okay, fine. So I then went to Paris to see another specialist who said, look, we're not too sure. The French doctors have this opinion, and your doctor in Edinburgh, says it's fine. We think it could be a bit dangerous. So I said, well, why don't I go and see someone in London? So they said, okay, that's fine. So I went to London through the rest of the test, or the same tests. And the guy in London was of the opinion of the guy in Edinburgh. He said, look, it's not causing you any problem. We don't see any reason to operate on it, or it shouldn't cause you any problem going forward. So basically had two kind of opposing opinions on it. So we were in a bit of a stalemate, and this was going on. This took like a long time, to arrange all these things. So I was maybe out of it for 4 months at this stage. Then I said, well, can I go and see? Oh, they said, we'll send you to Belgium, because obviously Belgium, separate from the two opinions that I've got, different country and what have you. And I think they kind of thought that the Belgian sort of medical system would be similar to them, to be honest. But went up to Belgium and had to do these, it was like funny tests that they put you on. They basically put all these heart monitor stuff on you, and they get you on a bike. And so, you're on this sort of exercise bike thinking, right, I'm going to show these guys that there's nothing wrong with you, so you're absolutely powering away, and there's literally 6 guys in the room with white coats on, like taking all these things.
Right.
So it was a bizarre, intense experience. And I thought, look, I'll just absolutely go as hard as I can, because at least then there's no hiding. You know, there's no hiding from if there is something wrong, it will come up. Anyway, I remember being absolutely sweating, and the guy actually saying to me, like, you can stop.
Right.
So I stopped, and then I went away into the room to get showered up, and he said, we'll see you in 10 minutes. So came back, and then he came in, and I was kind of expecting the worst, just because he brought like his entourage in.
Yeah, that's like you're thinking there's something not right here.
There's something definitely not right here. But he was just like, look, he said, we've looked at all the past cases of this in history, and we just don't see, if you can perform at that level, then there's no problem with you playing. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I'll go back 2v1, you know. I'll just get to sort of resume my rugby career. But so then went back to France, to Toulouse, and then they were very keen for me to play. So I got sort of said, look, that's great, you've got this news, we'll put you in the squad. So I was training the start of the week, and then at the end of the week on the Thursday, they said, look, we've had another chat with the doctors and you're not allowed to play. So cut long story short, which is not really cutting a long story short because it is a long story, but basically it became an insurance issue. So they were French league, French doctors said no. So
that was it. So
that was kind of it. So I just took I was only 20. I was 30 by that time, I think. So I just took the decision, look, you know, and I said, look, maybe I'll try and go somewhere else. Maybe I can play back home or in the UK. So I had a couple of bits of interest from clubs down south. But it got to a point where, you know, when you're signing someone, it's probably between two people. And they were just like, no, this heart issue, is that all been solved? So I'd say, oh, yeah, you know, it's all solved.
Aye.
But it just...
That shit's got it on you. They can look back and say, well, why did he only last like 4 months at Toulouse and all that? Like, there's got to be a reason. Then they look into it, then they find that, and then...
Yeah.
So you just made the decision. That's been hard because you said you were fit at that point. Yeah. You said you felt like you were riding quite high. It must have been a hard pill to swallow.
Oh, it was a shocker because I was always quite a late developer. Like I put on a lot of weight, and no one really knew I put on a lot of weight because I think I was that skinny when I started. But I was at my fittest. I was probably at my strongest as well. And then someone's coming and saying, "Look, you can no longer play because you've got this." And then you got one doctor saying, "Look, it shouldn't affect you," and then the other doctor saying, "It's a risk." So I kind of just thought, I've had a decent enough career, but
what do professional rugby players get paid when you're kind of at that top level? Like, I mean, obviously it's different now. But
yeah, it's different now. I mean, I think, you know, now, like Finn Russell, for example, he's the highest paid player. He's at Bath for £1 million a year.
Right. Okay.
So he's pretty high. I think, you know, Owen Farrell, all the top players will probably be there or thereabouts, I would say, but it's ranges.
Potential investors there. Potential joint ventures, partnerships.
I'm sure Marcus has already reached out to them.
Maybe should actually.
Yeah.
Your earnings in rugby, was it good enough to kind of put this nest egg away to go for it in property? Or?
Yeah, I think I managed to save quite a bit from that, and then, you know, with it being an insurance thing, I got a bit of insurance money, which, you know, helped buy a house back here, and just put away, and, you know, just help. I mean, it was never enough to earn, you know, and not do anything unless you wanted to. You know, well, in fact, it was never enough. I wouldn't even kid myself to say I earned that much.
Had you already thought about your career past rugby?
Well, I always had the property thing in the back of my head, but it came as such a sort of shock that I hadn't really. I thought 29
planned it.
Yeah,
well, shit, I need to get a job now.
Well, that's right. Well, you kind of go from contract to contract, and I just signed I think it was a 3-year contract, so 29 to 32, and then I thought, at 32 I'll probably get one more after that until maybe I'm 34, 35. So I thought, I'll start, you know, looking at it more seriously. Plus the wages in France back then were probably double what they were here. So I was thinking, you know, if I got 5 years out here, I'll put quite a bit away.
Bang some good cash, yeah.
Exactly, but I never kind of got there. So So yeah, when I came back, it was a bit like, what am I gonna do? And I went in to help with my dad and my sister at the time in their business, but I was kind of in a bit of a haze with not really knowing what I was doing. I suppose in a bit of a, I don't know, depression. I just felt it tough to, like, you know, when you get taken away from you quickly. It was tough, and I think for about a year or so, I just didn't have a clue what I wanted to do.
Floated.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to sort of straighten yourself up and sort of get that direction again to be able to progress with your life almost?
Yeah, it was. I think my brother was back here, and he'd always been involved and interested in property, and we started actually a property auction business.
Right.
And it's totally at the wrong time, to be honest, but we started that.
What year was that?
Oh my God, now you're asking.
Was it a crash?
That would be, it was a crash. And we thought, you know, there'll be loads of property on the market, but obviously no one to buy the property. No one to fund them, so it was completely wrong. But off the back of it, we ended up starting, because nothing was really selling. There was some guys that were saying, look, can you rent it out while your next auction comes along?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of how we got into letting. And
Right.
I had my own small portfolio as well as this, so we're managing them all.
So what were those early days like in letting then, when you're starting out, you know, what are your memories from that?
I quite enjoyed it because it was like, we were doing everything, you know, we were clearing flats, we were, you know, painting rooms and hoovering and whatever, just to
I've still got a hoover in the back of my car.
It's funny when you start from kind of doing everything. It's not the bottom up, it's just what it was. But it was quite a nice time, I think, to get into it, because the deposit scheme just came in. So we were always doing stuff and lodging deposits. We were always kind of just, we did everything online. We used DocuSign at the start and all this, and we just tried to sort of
just digitise that.
Probably ahead of the game back then.
Yeah, we were. I mean, Gilson Gray just got DocuSign. It was like this year, and I'm like, we've been using this
15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. We have an account, and I was busy trying to shut down the account, but I couldn't shut down our account because it had been like enveloped by Gilson Gray's account. Anyway, but we've been using that for, I don't know, since the start. So many ways we were ahead of the game. And I remember going to, like, it was a landlord accreditation Scotland event, and it was talking about deposit schemes. And I remember almost there not being enough seats in the room because every big agent in the land were there saying, you know, more or less finding out if they really needed to lodge deposit. And, you know, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? Can we do this? Can we do that? And it was just like, no. Any money taken off a tenant has to be lodged. So we were at a good time. You know, we got into a good time. And
How did that grow then? So that was you and your brother, was it?
Yeah, so that was me and my brother.
How did you get on? Where did that get to?
So yeah, then there was my brother had a friend, Sam Paulo, who's a lettings and the other lettings director at Gilson Gray. He had a family portfolio, so we kind of said, look, why don't you bring that, and we'll manage the whole thing and just grow it from there. So we did that, and then my brother, to be honest, he was like, look, I'm just going to go and get another job. There's not enough money for us all, type thing. So he went off to do that, and yeah, I was doing property lettings with Sam, and just kind of grew from there.
How did you know Sam again?
So he was a friend of my brother's. I
Friend of your brother,
but he was good pals with my brother.
How did you get on him in a business partnership then? Did that go okay? Or?
Yeah, still going. He's still involved at Gilson Gray.
Right.
Yeah, it was good because there was two of us kind of like-minded in the fact of just like getting your hands dirty and getting on with it. And we had a good network.
What was the name of the letting agency?
So back then it was Shapes Property.
Right.
And then, so we started working on that, and it got to a stage where we thought, look, we need an office. So then we got introduced in a roundabout way to Mark Coulter, and then had a chat with him, and then that's when we started Coulter's. Coulter's property. So we worked along with Mark for about 5-6 years.
And you grew your existing portfolio.
Yeah.
What sort of scale did that get to then when it was Coulter's? How many properties was that?
We got up to about 270, somewhere like that.
With you and Sam?
Just with me and Sam, yeah. And we just had a small shop in Northwest Circus Place in Edinburgh, and it was a great shop. It was right on the corner, and we spent quite a lot of time and effort on the marketing of it, and we got a lot of local business.
Nice.
We stayed open till 7 o'clock every night. We had on a Thursday we were even later. We opened up at the weekends. We were I think one of the first to put. Do you know how they had the A3 kind of, it's old hat now, but the displays, we had them kind of lit as well. So when you went past
that's
the shop,
before like all the LED lighting and all that we've got now, the panels and the monitors and stuff.
That's right, yeah. So our shop was like a Christmas tree, and when you actually drove into Northwest Circus Place, it was right in the corner. You could actually see the shop as you drove down, so it was brilliant. And people would come in and ask, how many other branches we had in the UK, some of them, and we were like, this is it. So it worked really well for us.
So see, the other guy, was he more the investor then you and Sam were kind of left to run it, or what?
So no, Mark was the estate agency side of it.
Right, okay, got you.
So there were two separate entities really under the one umbrella. And we had plans after a while to perhaps look at merging the businesses, but then Mark ended up leaving the business, or kind of selling out, and then leaving the business, and then after a year or so of the new owners, or a couple of years actually, we decided that. Or they said, look, we either merge or we separate type thing. And we said, okay, what does it look like? And we just felt it wasn't the best for us, so we separated.
But you still retain those 200 and whatever properties that you have built up. Do you still retain that?
Yeah.
And then you move into, where do you go from then?
So we then merged into Gilson Gray.
Right, okay. So you come in there with that book of properties, if you like. Right, okay.
Yeah. And then... So that was about four years ago now, I think.
And was that their first? Because obviously you were explaining before that Gilson Gray are more they're big in the legal side of things, and was that their first venture into the property lettings, or the lettings arm already? Or
no, they didn't. That was they had an estate agency arm,
right?
And I know. I know both partners quite well, Glenn, Gilson and Matt.
Are they Edinburgh based?
Yeah, they both are. But Matthew had played, actually, when I left school, my first ever game of rugby was with Matt Gray up in Dundee.
Right, okay.
So I've known him for a long time. And actually, I by chance met him when all the bit with Coulter's, when I was leaving Coulter's, I went to a Pret a Manger or something like that, and he was there buying a sandwich, and I started to talk to him,
right.
And he was just like, look, we'd like to have you, as part of us, so why don't we start talking? And then it just kind of went from there.
And are you happy with that move? Things going, going well with you? Like, why not? Why did you not think, well, do you know what? I can just go myself. Like, why do I need that? Why do I need to get involved and give somebody else my share when I can just have it all?
Yeah, there was a bit of that. There was a bit of that thinking. I think as well, Sam at the time, he was very keen on the whole thing, and we knew Matt and trusted the guys and what have you, and it's part of a bigger property services.
So then you're thinking it could all work, like we can get referrals from different clients, build it, it could work in both ways, it can work out.
Yeah.
So obviously there's got to be benefits for both parties, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what letting's like, so people will need wills, succession planning. They might need a mortgage. They might need advice on selling. There's a lot of buying and selling that goes on, isn't there? So, so we thought it would be good, so we could refer them business, and they could hopefully refer us, some back to the department, and we're all working together. So,
Great.
So yeah, it's and that's, we've grown into, you know, Edinburgh's our main office.
Yeah.
Got property in Glasgow borders. We've got an office in Dundee, and we're looking at other options as well. So the expansion is
Not Glasgow yet, no?
we've got an office in Glasgow.
You do,
yeah, so,
you do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much.
It must be something to be part of that expansion as well.
Yeah.
Then, Gilson Gray, maybe something you wouldn't have done yourself by merging.
Yeah. I think we saw the kind of advantages of merging in a business, and I think when you've got your, you know, systems and processes in place, you know, actually, you know, merging in, you know, potentially a same size business or smaller, you know, if you can get them into the way that you're working, then you can cut a lot of costs.
Yeah, all that.
And do they give you that kind of flexibility, that kind of, you know, that space to be able to sort of grow the letting side of things, like in terms of bringing in processes and systems, or do you have to go through a hierarchy to get things kind of
we're kind of part of the property board, so if we have ideas, you know, we've got a linear, there's not a huge, well, there's obviously certain things you have to justify to the board, but yeah, if opportunities present themselves, you can quite quickly sort of weigh them up, and
they kind of put the trust in you, and you, because that's ultimately what you need, because otherwise you're going to face constant hurdles, aren't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there are. I think you know, lettings. I feel is once you get to a certain size, there's really good opportunities in it, and it throws off a lot of other, you know, a lot of other business as well. And if you can, we're quite well placed because we can kind of take care of that as well. And that's the beauty of being part of a you know, multi-facet law firm, if you like, is, you know, if someone wants to buy a shop, for example, it's kind of not kind of what we do, but we've got a commercial team that can look at that. If someone wants a will, or if they want investments, if they want to look at succession planning, we've got all that in the one place, which is a good advantage as well. And you know, little things like debt recovery, we've got a debt recovery team, so we can ask them, you know, advice on certain aspects. It's a bit more complex now than it.
And what, because obviously we know, right, as letting agents, right, how fucking stressful it can be, and you know, it can be challenging. Like, what age are you now?
45.
Right, do you feel like you've got to the point now where you're like, you can, like, because I just feel, because I'm the business owner, like, I can never switch off. Like last night, I'm putting my, you know, 5-year-old kid to bed. I've got a tenant calling me, like, and it's literally like non-stop. I'm like, shit, I need to answer this. And she's sending me videos of a leak. It's a live leak. It's basically water's pissing all over the place, like, just like. She's like, what do I do with this? I'm like, trying to put my boy to bed. He's not understanding that daddy's got to deal with this and all the rest of it. But that's my decision, and it's what I've decided to do, and it's my business. Yeah. How, and now with your business and the way you're placed, have you been able to, like, achieve a better quality of life now? Yeah. Are you away from that? Are you still having to take those calls?
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, we started out when we first went into it, we were going to open longer than everyone. We're going to be on our phones and all this sort of stuff. I think that's important to still maintain these relationships. Yeah. But yeah, if I find that certain systems can help with that. You know,
have you got an out of hours line or something like that?
Yeah, we've got an out of hours line, and we're looking at other products which can assist with out of hours. So it's not just someone phoning and being a voice on the phone and then basically phoning you to tell you what they have to do. It's more like you'll get through to a qualified person who, because a lot of emergency call-outs are not really emergency call-outs. That's
why I didn't answer the phone for the first 2 rings, and then I knew by the 3rd ring it was serious. Do you know what I mean? And then I see the picture come through in the email. Well, it was actually a video she sent me. She says, am I expected to leave this all night? And literally the water's like just shooting out the pipe.
Yeah.
But then, like, landlord might be listening to this podcast saying, well, Nick's not doing a very good job managing my property. But that was all done within the space of like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, I got straight back to it because I'm monitoring my phone while I'm putting my kid to bed, which my wife is always getting on at me at, and I get a lot of grief for that. But so like, but that's where it's hard to go to that next level. Do you know what I mean? Where
I think there is an element of having good staff and trusting in them as well, because you can do a bit of help, delegate for them to do it once they're at that stage. But again, you have to have that sort of trust element with them.
Might I add on that story, I did have a plumber there within 30 minutes and the pipe was fixed. Minimal damage to the
insurance claim going in as we speak.
Minimal damage to the landlord's property and happy tenant.
What's the future holding for you then, when your own stock, your own portfolio? Have you taken your eye off the ball as you've been growing the business under Gilson Gray now as well? Or?
No, I've always had a separate business as well that the guys are aware of, that I do property development.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that.
So I'm keen to. We're pretty close on concluding a site. It should be imminent for new build houses.
Nice.
So I've always had an interest, because I've done renovations, quite a lot of them over the years, and it's been mostly kind of commercial back to residential. So, but they've always been within kind of residential buildings, if you know what I mean. So like offices and legal offices or something that we've converted back. And I did a hostel on the Royal Mile. I split that back from the hostel to 3 separate flats.
Nice.
Sold the one or kept them?
Sold one and retained 2 that we do in the short term let market. But yeah, my next stage was new build. I always wanted to sort of build houses.
So you partnered with someone else to do that?
Yeah. Partnering up with someone else to do that as well.
Can you give us like a rough like GDV figure of what the size of the project is? Like,
so
how many units?
So it's 11 units, and they're ranging from about 1,500 square foot up to about 2,600 square foot.
Flats, a block of flats?
No, it's 11 separate sort of houses with gardens and
nice. Inside Edinburgh, or?
just on in kind of within or just outside the bypass.
What stage are you at with that in planning? Or?
So it has planning, but we're going to have to kind of resubmit for amendments to planning, because a lot of the sites out there that are like that, they're kind of maybe owner occupiers have got planning, but actually what they have planning for is normally not probably the best thing to build.
Like cosmetically viable, I suppose. But and just cost of materials and things like that. So yeah, we're going to have to resubmit to planning and rejig it a bit, but yeah, it's exciting for me.
Is that going to take up, like, what's your role going to be then? You're going to be like project managing that kind of?
I don't think so. I think we'll probably outsource.
Obviously you've got another job as well to run alongside it. So but that's really interesting as well. And do you have quite a passion for that then? You're quite excited with this?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of got into property to develop it, from the start, that first flat that I mentioned, and you kind of, I don't know, your business takes a kind of side road, but I think I've always kind of enjoyed the development aspect of it.
I think it's a bit more satisfying than lettings, isn't it?
You
get a bit more self-satisfaction out of
it. a wee bit. I think I've always enjoyed the people aspect of lettings. You speak to a lot of people and make contacts, but there's a lot less in development. You've got yourself, maybe a few contractors and the end user, so it's a bit more straightforward, I think. But
focus on the product rather than the service, I suppose.
I mean, you've got to, like, we want to create a product that's probably, because because we've, you know, for example, if you take tiles, we'll be putting in a better spec of tiles in them and better flooring, better, you know, bathroom furniture.
Has your dad still got his tile business?
Yeah, so
sorted there.
So I'm helping him out with that as well. So but that's really good because that affords us, you know, just that little bit more quality and value for money. So.
And you'll not be putting any gas boilers in.
No, exactly.
That's something you'll need to look at.
Heat pumps and all this sort of
that'll
stuff
be costly.
that we're looking at. So
when are you expecting to kick off for that next year?
Yeah, that's going to be probably, who knows, but once we conclude, which should hopefully be happening in the next month, I would say, then we've got to resubmit planning, get building more and do site investigations, all this sort of stuff. So you're probably not even going to be, next year would be a push, I would say, probably maybe the start of the following year.
Yeah.
And then you've got about
funding in place, or are you looking at that once upon?
We've got funding in place. So yeah, that's all in place and that's good actually. We're happy with that. It's just the process of planning.
Bank or private investor? Or
private
that's good. Yeah.
Did you say you just said it, the process of planning? It's like interesting to see that. Don't know if you saw in the budget just the other week there, and they got down in England. There was permitted development rights to turn a house into 2 flats without getting planning permission. Not a huge thing, but it just shows you down there they're a wee bit like more lenient, a bit more forward thinking. Same with the office space, to
right. They can go
residential without planning. You just think someone needs to give the Scottish Government a wee shake up, just like make it easier.
Absolutely, and if you look at Edinburgh and Glasgow, a lot of properties are offices, but they don't really lend themselves to offices very well. We're in 3 townhouses in Rutland Square, and you know, you've got rooms like this, and a big wall, then a door, then a room where like the other team's sitting. Open plan is obviously what everyone wants. So there's so many opportunities, I think, if they just say, look, let's get a couple of these empty townhouses back into resi or split into flats without the arduous. And honestly, it'll just kickstart the process.
And I don't think finding the investment is probably going to be the hard bit, is it? You know, it's like the money would come if they just relax the planning legislation, and obviously the legislation clamping down on obviously the landlords and all that doesn't help either. Finally, just finishing up on the short-term let stuff as well, because we need to touch on that. So you've got a few short-term lets, or you're going through the process in Edinburgh.
So the hostel that developed, I split into 3 and then sold 1 and retained 2 that I do in short-term lets. So they're right on, right in the old town, off the Royal Mile, World's End Close, and they're great. They just lend themselves to that sort of market. They're very.
Is that one of those closest you see? Because I was in Edinburgh yesterday. I very rarely go through Edinburgh, right? But I was going up the Royal Mile of one. I can't even remember if it was Royal Mile. I don't really know Edinburgh that well, but I looked over and I was looking at the entrances to the doors, and there was like the key boxes. There was about 20 key boxes outside one door that I saw.
That is one of the things that they're trying to limit or get away from. But the Royal Miles, it's one of these streets. It's just heavily tourist.
I know the close you're on, because I actually went up there with my daughter recently, went for food and then went for a walk up the Royal Mile. So I remember walking up that close, and I remember looking at it and thinking, I remember about the murders growing up. There's the World End pub.
That's right.
Right next to it. That was clicked. That's right. That must just suit short-term let. Like that surely can't suit someone just wanted to rent a 1-bed or 2-bed flat in that street.
Well, that's the argument. It's like, you know, would anyone want to actually live there? Okay, it's another. If you go down the aim, it's another property on the market for someone to live in, but like
that's not solving the housing crisis, is it? You know what I mean?
But who's going to want to live in the Royal Mile? Someone that works in the shops in the Royal Mile.
Yeah.
And what's the pay like the salary of someone working in a shop? Probably far beyond the affordability to actually rent a flat in the Royal Mile. Yeah,
it is now, and I think I mean they're high value properties. And the other thing about the Old Town is everything that's done for the market is up. It's, you know, if you look at the cafe below, the pub, the shops up and down the Royal Mile, the restaurants, everything that they have, it all relies on the summer trade, the tourist trade. So I suppose the issue is that you might be solving a problem for someone to live there, but you know, what are you going to do with all these businesses when they go bust because there's not enough, you know, demand for what they're doing? So I personally feel with all of this, they're just kicking the can down the street. And
because they're not building enough houses.
And talk about it from your own personal experience with applying for the licence. Where are you at with that? What did you do? So because 1st of October was the deadline.
So we applied about 3 weeks before that deadline, got everything in, applied for the licence, applied for planning, and
was that the certificate
certificate of lawfulness? Yeah, well, you can apply for change of use, or there's a certificate of lawfulness, but you have to have had 10 years trading to apply for that. However, we've actually applied for a certificate of lawfulness as well to see what happens. But effectively, it's all up in the air. And we're
have you had the response yet?
No response yet. We got a response saying that the application is complete and it's in for to be looked at. But
what are you expecting?
I think everyone is expecting. It's in a. The only thing about my property, as I would say, that's different is it's in a communal entrance, so that doesn't bode well. But my section of the building was a hostel before. So actually, if you look back on the previous history of it, it's not been a residential house for the last 30, 40 years or something like that, when it's been a hostel. So it is now set up like a house because there's a 1-bedroom property and a 2-bedroom property. But can they actually say, I don't know, that you've not been, or I suppose they can, because we've not been in there operating. I think we're about 3.5 years or something like that. But the argument to me is like, well, I actually redeveloped a building and it was a hostel. So, what's the difference? It wasn't a house. It wasn't getting used as a house. If I'd kept it as a hostel, would have got planning for it.
And what will you do if you don't get the licence?
Probably hang on to them, I would say, because I just think that
because of the good assets and
good assets, and I'd rent them out long term. I think. I would hate to having gone through. I mean, it took
the development and the pain.
The pain, but also like little things like it took months to get them changed, to get the address recognised. And like I had a water bill that was like $3,500, and it was coming from the or even more. I think it was $4,500 coming from the cafe downstairs, and I was, no matter how many times I phoned up,
they're like, free water's come to an end. Inviting everybody in for showers and all that.
I was like, we don't use this much water. Anyway, eventually they got the meter that it was, and it covered the cafe, and then we got it split, and anyway it got sorted, and I got a big refund. But I was just like, that was probably 3 years it took. So these things are like they're great in theory, and they are, but there's a lot of work that goes.
Did you go and support the group? You were saying that you got involved with the self-caterers group to go and.
Yeah, they had a funding page and that you could donate to for the class action. So did that.
So we had Fiona lined up, didn't we? And then we've not able to get her yet. Been able to get her, but we want to speak to her about developments and what's going on.
Yeah, she'll be great. She's obviously so involved in it, and so well informed, and she knows it from the business aspect, which I think it's like they're almost overlooking that, and it's people's livelihoods, and for it just to be working. It's not even phased out. It's just like, no, you can't do that anymore. If you get told your license is revoked or whatever, or you're not getting a license, you have to get the folk out your flat. Like it's got to.
You'd mentioned as well you had rough numbers of the applications that were submitted. I think when we last spoke, there was only a couple of hundred out of apparently 13,000. But you said that there was 3,500. But
I think loose numbers about 3,500. I think that have applied for it, and I've heard that most of that came in the last sort of 3 weeks before the deadline. So there's going to be a backlog, and who knows how long it's going to take.
But a long time to go through that, won't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
And meanwhile, Edinburgh City Council are announcing that they've got housing crisis, a housing emergency, which, like, obviously that was pretty obvious, and I think most local authorities there's a housing emergency. That obviously this is going to be, well, you can already see it playing out down England with the run up to election, housing becoming like a major
political football.
It's a battleground for the.
And it'll be interesting to see in the election, because what happens if someone else gets in, and their processes and their viewpoints, especially even in Scotland, the short-term lets, will that be up in the air? If
it could all change, they could reverse it. Anyway, it's been great having you on. That's just about an hour there. We've gabbed away. It's been a great chat. Really interesting seeing into a wee bit of insight into a professional rugby player as well. That was really fascinating. I'll need to go back now in the old YouTube clips and the old see you play.
There'll be a few, I hope. I hope that some of the good ones. My brother, just finishing off, my brother always, I've got two younger brothers, and I played obviously for Scotland and all that. I thought I had a good career. And the best clip that they think, I played once against John Olomu, and there's a clip of him handing me off and me going about 6 meters back,
just with a hand.
It was like a fly, I think.
Flattened.
And that's the one that
what position were you again?
I was outside centre most of the time.
Interesting. Right, we need to check that out, guys. If you want to follow Marcus, do you do much social media, or are you Instagram, LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, and a little bit of social media.
Get his LinkedIn, connect with them. Gilson Gray, Marcus
Di Rollo.
Di Rollo. I keep wanting to say Di Rollo. That's a singer, is it not?
Di Rollo.
That's Thanks very much for coming in.
No problem.
Cheers.
Great. Thank you.